Welcome to my second and more elaborate build guide. This time it's a good mix of both stealth and explosives. I'm not seeing a lot of guides out there that go into too much detail other than just showcasing something off the internet. So I just wanted to give a more in-game elaborate look of what my build looks like. Hopefully inspire some of you in terms of what you could do differently with your build or where you might want to go with your build, giving you some options. I definitely don't think that you should copy paste my build unless you really like the idea of it, because there's no such thing as the best build for anything in this game. It all comes down to your personal preferences, and I think that's a very important thing to emphasize. As you can see on my Pip-Boy, I'm level 111, so I have quite a bit of time in this game, and I find that mostly playing solo, this build works really well for me. I really like the stealth playstyle, and the explosives just make you a lot more versatile in a lot of combat situations where stealth is not necessarily much of a factor. So I'll leave some timestamps down below for anyone interested. I'll go over the perks, mutations that I have and which I would generally recommend for a build like this. And finally I will go through some of my inventory so you guys can see what my loadout looks like. First of all, let's have a look at my perks. So I know that this is blasphemy in terms of all the other build guides you'll see right now, as a lot of them are stacking extra damage, but my strength tree is completely dedicated, as you can see, to weight reductions. First of all, we have ballistic weapon ammo weighs 90% less, explosives weigh 90% less, that includes grenades and mines, but also stuff like missiles and mini nukes. Pack rat, my junk, all weighs 75% less, and finally my chems, including stim packs, weigh 90% less. This means that I am literally a walking arsenal slash pharmacy slash whatever else you might need. I'll have you see my inventory once we get to that point, and otherwise you can just fast forward if you want to see exactly just what this looks like in practice. As I'm mainly focusing on my combat rifle, I have gone for Expert Rifleman, Master Rifleman, and Rifleman, which all give 10% extra damage to non-automatic rifles. Each perk beyond that, or each perk invested beyond that to rank 2 or 3, only gives you 5% extra. So if you do want to stack these, I would definitely recommend that you at least get rank 1 of each of these before you start investing in rank 2 and beyond. Second, as I started including explosives in my build, I went for Grenadier, and that basically just means that every explosive you have detonates with twice the radius, which in conjunction with certain other perks is extremely powerful. We'll get to that in a little bit. And finally I have rank 1 tank killer. Your rifles ignore 12% armor and have a 3% chance to stagger. As you can see, rank 3 is a lot more efficient. I usually use armor penetration on my weapons to begin with. This stacks. That's quite evident. I am doing more damage the higher rank I'm using up this card, despite already having armor penetration. But while I'm using Grenadier, I'm running this at rank 1, and if I'm going into an entirely stealth-based section of the game, where I know that I won't be tossing grenades left and right, I just equip this at rank 3 and unequip Grenadier instead. Now for this tier, these are fairly recent for my build. I have Photosynthetic, which during the day gives me a huge health regeneration. It's not that big compared to a mutation such as Healing Factor, but it also doesn't have the downsides. And in conjunction with Sunkissed at rank 2, which does the same thing except it recovers radiation damage, it's extremely powerful. The second it hits 6 AM, you will just see your rats ticking away and your health going up, and that's a non-stop thing, combat or not. There's also similar perks for night-related activities, and there's overall just a lot of perks for different things that you might find useful or helpful. But these are the ones that I'm mainly using. Seeing as I am playing solo mostly, I'll just show you what I'm running with solo here. The first one being Bloodsucker. Basically blood packs, they already weigh quite a bit. Being able to use those to satisfy thirst and then heal you more, that's really beneficial, especially at night when photosynthetic isn't ticking. Then we have Lone Wanderer at max rank, which makes you take 20% less damage and gain a lot more AP regeneration. This is just overall really good, obviously, if you're not in a group, because it's huge bonuses to two really useful aspects. And then I'm using Tenderizer, which makes my target receive 5% more damage for 5 seconds after I attack them. And seeing as I'm using a combat rifle mainly, I can usually chain shots off right away, so it's just a constant 5% bonus past the first shot, which is really powerful. You can of course invest more in this and drop stuff like Bloodsucker if you'd prefer more damage instead of utility. The charisma tree is mainly, not entirely, but mainly focused around playing with other people. So if you are grouping up, you definitely want to change some of these a tad. Now, Demolition Expert, I have that maxed out. It lets you craft certain new grenades at a higher rank, but most importantly for my stealth explosive build here, it increases my damage done by 100%. And my other slot, as I'm not using power armors, goes to Gunsmith, which just essentially makes my gun break a lot slower. Obviously in the intellect tree, as you can see in the bottom, I have a lot of other perks like Chemist to craft more chems, Armor and Fix It Good to fix my armor up really well, really cheaply, Weapon Artisan, and like obviously I'm utilizing all of these as well when they're relevant, but in combat situations these would be my go-to. Now Stealth, the core component, if you want more details on Stealth as a whole, you can check my prior build video. I will not go into as much detail here, but essentially Covert Operative just gives you a flat extra 0.5% at max free to your already existing 2x multiplier on sneak attacks. So that is incredibly powerful. Escape Artist, it almost muffles your sound entirely, and you will be able to duck the second you get discovered. It's not always that it works, but sometimes you will actually be able to duck in front of enemies right in front of you to get a sneak attack off. So whether you're doing a melee build or a ranged build, if you are utilizing stealth, this is amazing. Mr. Sandman, the second that I don't have my health and radiation recovery ticking in the day, this kicks in at night and it gives me 50% extra on sneak attack damage with suppressed weapons. This essentially means that it's adding to the Covert Operative multiplier. This one's a little bit iffy, as the game doesn't seem to be able to figure out whether it wants to scale with the flat sneak multiplier or the increased sneak multiplier from Covert Operative. So sometimes at night you'll be doing 3.5 times more damage. Sometimes you'll be doing 3.75% more damage. But in any case, at night this is a huge damage increase. I am able to 4-shot these super mutant warlords. I believe 3-shotting them if I have 3 ranks in my tank killer perk. So this is a must for any ranged stealth build. Sneak, you're 75% harder to detect while sneaking. That's a no-brainer in a sneak build. It is incredibly useful. If you can't tell that 75% is useful, or whether it is useful rather, it really is, and especially as you stack higher agility, you will really see this making a huge difference. And then I have Through Hiker. Like in the strength tree, food and drink weights are reduced by 90%. I can carry a lot of consumables. I am rarely hungry nor thirsty. Finally, in the last section we have Bloody Mess, which is essentially just a 15% bonus damage increase to anything you're doing. Goes without saying, that's pretty powerful no matter what kind of build you have. Last Laugh is the perk that kind of inspired me to go in the direction of explosives as well. Some of you might know, which I'm probably going to upload a video on shortly as well, PvP scaling is really messed up right now with high level players using high level weapons doing practically no damage to low level players. So this was my way to actually stand a chance in PvP, because even if the scaling kicks in a way where I just don't stand a chance against a lower level player, if they want my loot, well, they're gonna get a little bit more than they bargained for. Add this together with the 100% increase from Demolition Expert and the extra range from Grenadier, and this is basically gonna fuck up pretty much anyone trying to take your stash if they manage to kill you. In terms of PvE, this is probably not the most useful thing because you generally don't want to die there, but if you do end up throwing it down with another player, it's hilarious to see people run up and just get nuked to oblivion by this. Seeing as I'm using rifles mainly, we have Tormentor at rank 2, just because I can't get rank 3 with my current setup unless I drop Last Laugh. But I'm fine with this, because I can fire a lot of shots really quickly, and even if things don't go down immediately with stealth attacks like most things do, they will typically not be able to move, nor in some cases even attack you, because of their crippled limbs. So this is just incredibly powerful. I have yet to see in PvP just how useful this is, but if you're mainly doing PvE and you're using rifles, this is an amazing one. And then finally, as we transition into talking about mutations, Starch Genes makes it so that you will never mutate anymore as long as you have this equipped. And you will never be able to cure your mutations as long as this is equipped. This is obviously very relevant if you're doing a mutation build, or if you have acquired certain mutations that goes really well together with the build that you've created, giving you big bonuses and negatives you don't really care about. What's important to note here is that you have to equip and unequip this all the time as you're acquiring set mutations if you're gunning for specific ones. You can check some of my prior videos where I've uploaded showcasing how I go about getting mutations. There's obviously other ways, and some people are using other locations to do it, but essentially that'll give you an idea of how mutations work and whether that's something you want to look into. And it's important to note here, since that question pops up a lot, yes, mutations can stack. You can have every single mutation in the entire game, except for herbivore or carnivore, as they are mutually exclusive. Right, so let's hop right into perks. The perks that I am using for my build right now, and trust me guys, if you're gunning for specific perks, this can take a long time. Hopefully not as long as me. I have spent 12 plus hours just trying to get perks or mutation perks that I was happy with. Hopefully you'll be able to do it a lot faster. Now, the ones that I am currently using, you can very easily find a list of the whole thing, anywhere online basically. It's Bird Bones, which gives me more agility, which improves my stealth. It reduces my strength, which for me, mainly as I'm not meleeing, mainly affects my carry weight. But as you can see, Marsupial gives me 20 extra carry weight, so they basically cancel each other out. And then it reduces my fall speed, whereas Marsupial adds to my jump height. I can just quickly showcase what that would actually look like by jumping off of my house here. Very big jump and very slowly landing. And it does seem to reduce fall damage slightly, but not remove it entirely. You can check another video I also uploaded just to test that. The other ones I have here, they were basically just chance perks I got in between getting these two, which I was fairly happy with. So I left those as they were, which is Grounded, giving me 100% extra, or 100, sorry, flat extra energy resist, as I'm not using any kind of energy weapons. I really don't need that energy gun damage, so for me that's perfect. Then next I have Plague Walker, which I'm not really using. However, just in case that I get diseases, that could help me out by just adding some passive extra damage on anything nearby. And then finally, Unstable Isotope, which irradiates at times my melee attackers. Basically makes you explode like a mini nuke sometimes, dealing a fair bit of damage. So that there's no harm in that really. As for other perks that I was originally going for, Marsupial is one of the ones I really wanted. The other one being Carmelian, which basically, as you're standing still, maybe crouched, I'm not quite sure, but as you're not moving at least, it basically just turns you flat out and almost invisible. However, you do have to be unarmored or wear legendary armor with the effects weightless. For a long time I was actively pursuing those and pursuing that mutation, but with 80 plus mutations and not seeing it, I simply just gave up. It shouldn't be any harder to get than anything else though. It's just a case of playing the mutation roulette, I guess you could say. There's about the same chance that you'll get any of these, but you're bound to see some of these a lot more often than others. Personally, I kept seeing the melee ones, which I just really didn't want as they affected my gun accuracy and such. The last one I would really recommend for a build like this would be Speed Demon. It essentially just makes you run really fast at the cost of draining your hunger and thirst meters a bit faster while you're moving, which I could honestly live with. I had it briefly and it's really fun to run around with, and I think it would go great if you can stack it with Bird Bones and Marsupial, especially if you throw in some other mutation perks, but that's a video for another day if you want one of those. Now, to talk about my inventory capacity and what I'm using, we'll start by going over my weapon section, where you can see I have, I would say, a fair bit of mines and grenades, and as you can see, the damage on some of these is absolutely ridiculous. Some of these grenades and mines are essentially just mini nukes, and with the extra range, they will just destroy anything in any area around them. There's really not much more to say than that, other than having this much carrying capacity with these. Being able to carry more than 200 grenades doing this kind of damage makes for excellent crowd control. If you should break stealth, or even if you're still stealth, you can chuck this at groups of enemies. With stealth investment, you will probably not even get discovered, even if you just keep chucking grenades from the shadows. So it's a really easy and efficient way to deal with huge packs of enemies. Now this one was just something I picked up at random. Let's just drop that for now. And this is the weapon I'm mainly using. Sneaking around, just chaining shots together. I can usually, in one full magazine, take down 3 or 4 super mutants before reloading. Talking max level super mutants here, of course, depending on the day and night cycle. The level 68 warlords. As for my armor, I am kind of all over the place right now with that. Just generally trying to find pieces I'm happy with, which I'm only part way with. There's not a lot to say there. I would just say that you should definitely just go with whatever kind of effects make you happy, whatever you feel is good for your build. You can see some of them have extra effects like -8 damage from players and +1 charisma, +1 strength, reduces damage while blocking by 15%, obviously for a melee build, and 50% chance when you get knocked out to take a stim pack to get back up. We have a lot of these kind of effects that really cater to very specific builds either, or that could just affect any build in general. Like, hey, taking less damage while sprinting, or less damage from Scorch, that's great, but if you're fighting super mutants and you're never sprinting, not a big deal. So the gear here is very subjective. I would say, as with any build, just go with whatever feels good to you to use. Now I'll look at my chem stash here. I'm carrying, I will just go through most of it fairly quick. You can see I'm carrying quite a bit of both food and water and chems in general. Especially now as we're getting further down the list, you'll see 20 medics, which is great for taking reduced damage. A lot of Nuka-Cola for quick healing. Psycho and Psycho buffs, we have a lot of that. Can carry plenty of water. When we get to my stim packs here, you can see if you stack with the perk from strength, you can carry a lot of stim packs. I rarely ever need to use stim packs. I was just trading away, I guess, around 100 yesterday, and yeah, I mean, whether you're using them as a trade good or just stockpiling them, sharing them with your friends, if you have a team medic maybe, you can carry a lot. That is like the gist of this. As you can see, I'm also carrying not a lot, but a fair bit. Okay, like some of my junk is stockpiling pretty high, but it basically just weighs practically nothing for me. And ammunition, I also traded a lot of that away, but yesterday I had like 10,000 more rounds and it was no problem carrying that. You can see some carrying capacities are so low that the game basically, while this does weigh something, the game basically translates it into 0 because it's rounded down, because the number is so incredibly low. So whether you need explosive, whether you need tons of chems and stim packs, lots of food, you can carry a lot with this kind of stat investment. And at least to me, it's a lot more useful both for managing your inventory, but also just, you know, playing the game in general. Because the first half of my playtime, even running some of these perks, I was just struggling both with my stash and my character inventory to actually have room for everything. I spent half my time just managing my inventory and trying to figure out what to put where, what to drop all the time. So I would definitely recommend this if that's something you're struggling with, because sure, you might be doing a bit less damage than putting a lot of points into melee damage, but you get to play the game more, you get to enjoy the game more without constantly being over encumbered. Anyway, I think that's pretty much all there is to my build right now. You can have a look at my my stats in the bottom here. You're not going to have too much health, but at least with this perk stat, or perk setup as well, mutation setup, sorry, you're also going to have a fair bit of AP. And of course, I would say, just going back to the perks here, use what works for you. If you want to play an explosive stealth build, but you don't want to play with a ranged weapon but prefer melee, just throw in something like Ninja here. Put some extra armor reduction in the strength tree if that's the case for you. Just figure out what works for you, and don't just go for these best build videos, because a lot of them really aren't that good builds. I won't say that my build is the best one out there, or necessarily even one of the best, but it works for me. I don't use my power armor much, so a build like this is just perfect for soloing, I have found. I can deal with literally any situation the game had been able to throw at me so far. So, I hope that this video was somewhat informative for you, and if it was, I would appreciate a like. And I know it's dragged on, become quite a long video, but if you feel like this was worthwhile to watch, feel free to subscribe as well. I will probably be doing more build videos in the future, and even if I'm not doing that, I will be testing more stuff like I've already done with this channel, just to answer some of the questions I come across that no one else on the internet seems to have answered yet. I already have a few things relating to PvP and stealth in mind that I just need someone to participate with as far as testing goes, but that should be up very soon. So thanks for watching, and have a great day.